So hello everybody, welcome to our Monday Night Live. Today I'm going to be going live with Georgia C. Leigh, who is the author of Light in the Shadows. We also have Light Lost, which is the second book in the series, and then the newest one, which is Shadow Rising, which will be coming out soon. So we are so excited to speak with Georgia today. Just going to take a minute to get on here. If you guys can like and share, that would be absolutely wonderful. We're going to be talking about this wonderful, amazing book today. I did tab it. So as you can see, there's lots of tabs in here. So we're going to go ahead and invite Georgia here. And then we'll get started. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good. My camera is trying to work right now. Let's see if I can get it to work.
All right. And I'll pull up my questions. Hi, Linnea. Hi, Kay. Got some lovely people here. Hello. Nice to see you and meet you. Awesome. I'm super excited to do this with you today and talk with you about your wonderful book. I know you've had two out, but this is the first one, and then we're going to be having a third one out in March. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff on this live tonight. So let's just jump right into it. So, Georgia, tell me a little bit about what made you decide to want to be an author and kind of what your path to publication was.
So I didn't start writing until I was almost 54.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was a whopping 3 years ago. I never, I'm an avid reader, and I think that anyone who's an avid reader, I think they have a book inside of them somewhere. And it really wasn't until, this is in the acknowledgments in my books, that my mother passed away. And it really kind of catalyzed all of these feelings and emotions and really wanted me to put something on paper. And I finally sat down and did it. And boy, it was a rough start. And but they just, after I kind of got the feel of the story, it just like flew out of me. Like the first book, I wrote Light Lost first. And that one I wrote that in 3 months. And then then I turned around and wrote, Light in the Shadows. And that one I wrote in 2 months. And so I had both books written, and they were like a dumpster fire. They were terrible. So it took about a year for me to kind of figure out I wrote these books and I had no idea what to do with them. I had like nothing. I had no clue how to even go about publishing. So I ended up talking to a friend of a friend, and she was a published author, and she did both routes. She did traditional and she did indie. And so she spent like 2 hours with me just talking about the industry. And so I went down, I'm going to go ahead and, I kind of fooled around with the manuscript for a while. And obviously Light in the Shadows was the one that had to come out first. And so I fooled around with that one and put it some beta readers and got some feedback on it. And then I decided I was going to query it. So I did. And it took me about 6 weeks to figure out this was just not for me. It was not my cup of tea. It was going to take way too long. And for me, it was just really the power imbalance between publishing and the author, and the compensation was just like, it was horrific. And it just really kind of turned me off of that. So I started exploring the indie route, and boy, it's not cheap. You're going to do it right. It's not cheap. I found a phenomenal editor who just basically tore those two books apart. We put them all back together. It's the same story, but it just laid out completely differently. And then I went ahead and self-published the one I published. Light in the Shadows just had its year birthday back in January. And then Light Lost was already written and was in the developmental editing process when I published it. So that was why I could put it out 6 months later. And then Shadow Rising was the first book I sat down and actually like, well, do I know how to write a book? It was a very deliberate effort rather than this just like emotional outpouring of this story. And that was terrifying, to be honest with you, to like to sit down and actually think about how to write a book. And so when I first put that out to my two alpha readers, I was like nail biting, like, did I whiff or did I make it? And I made it. It was all good. It was all good. And so that one took a little bit longer. And then I kind of got the hang of it. And I now have Shadows of Fate, which is the fourth book. That one is, I'm getting feedback from my alpha tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's
So
neat.
that one's written and yeah, that will go into developmental editing probably in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Yeah.
exciting. Perfect. Great. I think that that's kind of your kind of concern with trad publishing has been what I've heard from a lot of different authors that I've spoken to. So it's interesting because I didn't even know about indie publishing until I joined Book Talk. I
I have
really did.
no idea. Yeah.
So I mean now I pretty much exclusively read indie. I don't even like I'm reading House of, Flame and Shadow or whatever, and I'm just like I actually like don't really care for it. Like I'm just like I'm used to like it just feels very what's the word? I don't want to say calculated, but it feels like it's
Formulaic.
being
A little,
right,
yeah. Yeah.
expected, like it's like you said, there's a lot less ability for authors to be, very flexible, so I definitely can see like I feel like I can see that more now.
Yeah,
Um
and I think that I found that too. I think that, some of the feedback I got from, editors in the industry and agents were like, first of all, it was way too long. It was 145,000 words and they wanted me to cut it down to 100 and I was not going to do that. I can't even imagine it being the same story.
yeah.
I mean, it would not have been. The thing is, too, I had one person say, "Oh, you should just start the first chapter when Haven becomes a phoenix." I'm like, well, why would you even care at
Right.
that point? You have no idea who she is, and
Right.
you have no idea what her struggles are, and she has no character at that point. There would be no character, and that's, I think, one of the elements that I wanted to maintain with my stories. And I think that what resonates with readers is the characters and that they are very full, fleshed out people. And I kind of think of them as people. But that you go along with them on these emotional journeys that they're on. And it's very realistic. And again, I write long books. Sorry, folks, they're bricks. But it's for a reason. I know. It's like they're so long. And this next one is it's a behemoth. I don't even know what to do with it. I don't know what is wrong. What is wrong with me? I don't know. Anyway. Everyone keeps saying, write them longer. I'm like, it's expensive, people. It's really expensive to write these long books.
Right?
But anyway, and then they become too unwieldy. I'm trying to get them in hardback, and I can't do that. It's like the whole process of getting them in hardback has been so complicated. But anyway, unless they're like the print is like microscopic, because Amazon has these they have page limitations on hardback. You can't go over a certain number of pages. So that's been a struggle. Anyway, so, I just wanted to tell the stories that I had. I didn't want to try to fit it into this mold. And I think that's what kind of resonates with, readers like you guys. It's different. These are different stories. They're not your typical romantasy type book. It doesn't fit in a formula. And I like that. I think it's a fun story.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that we agree on that. So describe your writing process. I know that you said that you wrote Light Lost first, and then you
Yeah.
wrote Light in the Shadow. So tell me about that, and how are you planning? How did you write the newest book?
Yeah. So I, with Light Lost and with Light in the Shadows, I write scenes as they come to me, and that could be they're in any order, and they just kind of go in a file and try to make some sort of order of it as I'm writing it, but it is literally all over the place. And then when I get to about halfway, so in both cases, I got to about 70 to 90,000 words, I start putting it in the order that I think it's going to go in. And then I fill in, I stitch in around it.
Mhm.
And then you end up like, okay, I don't need that scene. I keep it. I like, when I'm all done with this process, I usually have like 50 pages of stuff that just never made it in. But it helps the thinking process, and you just start to develop the story. Like I know where I'm going. I know what the epilogue is going to be in this book.
Yeah.
I mean, this series. I know exactly where I'm going. But how I get there and some of the little side journeys we take, that those come to me along the way. And then the connections that I'm like laying Easter eggs, and sometimes those connect in different ways I didn't think they would. So I have to go back and fix those. But that's part of the creative process. As you're writing it from beginning to end, then you start making those more intricate connections, basically. And then with Shadow Rising, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm like a real author now. I'm going to write a book. And I started from the beginning and started writing. It turned out like shit. And I'm like, no, I just need to trust this process that I go through. And so I just started writing scenes and, like the scene at the lake. So first of all, I always write my spicy scenes first. Sorry. And the scene at the lake, that one I wrote 2 years ago. So while I was doing developmental editing on Light Lost, or actually Light in the Shadows, I wrote that scene. So that's just the way it comes to me when things happen and I write them down, and then I figure out where they go after that. And that's what happened with Shadow Rising until the end. And the end of Shadow Rising was very complex, and it was the biggest challenge I kind of put in front of myself. And even after writing Shadows of Fate, it was the ending of Shadow Rising was still the hardest thing I'd ever done. I had Post-it notes all over my house about like trying to figure out the timing and getting everyone in the right place over one event and before it and after it. And it was just breaking my brain. It took me about 4 months to figure out the ending and how to line everything up. I know, it was crazy. And so that was a little bit different. I'd never done that before. And, there are a couple of moments where I've despaired that I've like created something I was just not mentally capable of tackling. And then, of course, when I finished it, I'm like, did I write something that nobody's going to understand? So, but no, everything turned out okay. But I just decided that is my process. That's just how I write. I need to be able to feel these scenes in order to get the emotion into them that makes them interesting. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of writing scenes, and I think that's the kind of the fun part. I don't know how it's all going to stitch together, but I'm just writing them as they come to me.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about writing in this genre?
I love this genre. I've always loved fantasy since I was a little kid. I read, one of my first kind of real books that I read and it was probably when I was like 11, 8, 10, 11, was Lord of the Rings. I was just fascinated by creating a whole new world. And those are the books I've always gravitated towards. Even like when I was doing the YA books, the dystopian ones like Divergent and stuff, they did create, it was urban, but they created a world and a scenario and a setting. And I always found that to be fascinating. When I first started out writing this book and intending to write it, I kind of thought it would be like real fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, like, the dress and the kind of the rustic and riding horses and that kind of thing. And yeah, it didn't turn out that way. I think because the story itself is complex. I didn't want to make the world complex. I wanted to be a little bit more relatable. And so that's why I decided to go with urban fantasy. And, just they wear jeans. It's just easier. Everyone knows what jeans are, And I think, and then of course I read, probably maybe like 6 years ago, I read Throne of Glass and was blown away by that series. Completely blown away. And then I read ACOTAR and I really liked that one too. And then I read From Blood and Ash and I really liked that one too. And I started kind of like figuring out, okay, this is like a genre. And what if I, but a lot of them were like especially Throne of Glass started out YA. I'm like, what if I really tackle some adult issues here? And like because adults like fantasy too. And So that's why I decided that that was kind of book I was going to write, is that these people were adults. They were, and Haven was young when she started out. She was 18, and went to 21, but in Light Loss, she's 100. So, and she's lived a whole life. So, I actually kind of think of her as being older now than Riker, because she grew old and died. She knows what that's like. So, he hasn't done that. He's still kind of a kid, really. I just thought it would be interesting to be able to tackle some adult issues within that fantasy setting. So that's where it came from.
Awesome. Awesome. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused and on task?
Lots of coffee. I did have my writing buddy, Max, who passed away in December, my cat. So that was very, that was devastating to me. But he was great. It was nice having company around, and I always kind of feel like that's my familiar, if you will. I'm almost ready to think about getting another cat, but we'll see. I like having very loud music. So, and I'm a little bit of a metalhead, so it's very loud and very, very upbeat music. So, when I'm editing, usually just have TV on in the background as noise. But I do like to have noise. It helps me focus if I have some kind of noise going on in the background, and then no one else around, like just me. Like everyone else has to go away. If I've got people walking around and talking to me, it just never works. It just, doesn't work. So, but that's usually it. So coffee, a cat, and loud music or some kind of distraction. So to keep me focused.
Good. Good. And what's your kryptonite as a writer? What gets in your way?
Sorry, say that again.
What's your kryptonite as a writer? What gets in your way?
Burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it. And trying to do too much all at once. There are times when I'm trying to write the next book and developmental edits come back and I've got to switch gears, and then I try to go back and I'm just fried. My brain is just toast. And so allowing yourself to take a couple of days off and just get outside and walk around and go. I ride horses and go ride my horse. And just breathe, just take a breath. It's okay. You're not going to fall behind schedule. I'm an indie author. I don't have a schedule. Although I do have you guys, and you're like literally like the day like I put this book out, everyone's asking me about book 4, and I'm like, oh my God, it took like 20 months to write this book. And you guys eat it up in a day. But that's good. It's all good. I think burnout is probably my biggest, because you try to take on too much. You have to do the marketing, you have to do the editing, you have to do the writing, you have to do all of the business part of it as well. And it's a lot. And oh, by the way, I have a day job too. So, it is a lot. And so there are moments where you just need to, kind of settle down and take a break.
Mm-hmm. Good. Awesome. I'm so sorry for the dogs barking. I have no idea what is outside. I'm actually going to go look. So for anybody who is joining us right now, I am talking here with Georgia C. Leigh about her book, Light in the Shadows. And we're going to continue on and talk about the other books. Ladies, what's going on? You want to come in here? Come on. All right, I have my 2 dogs. Their names are Anna and Elsa because I am a Disney weirdo. Obviously, if you couldn't have tell. Hi, girls. Want to come up here? Come here. Come on. Come up. You can come up. She's being annoying now.
They make all the noise they want to be with you, but then they're not going to do it.
Come on, make up your minds. Make up your mind, ladies. All right. So, if you were going to Anna, come here, Anna. If you were going to describe your book in 10 words or less, we're going to stick with Light in the Shadows just so we don't go ahead and spoil anything, but 10 words or less or 1 sentence. How would you describe Light in the Shadows?
So this is any writer's kryptonite. You do know that. Like, I could easily write 150,000 words, but giving me 10, this is brutal.
What's your elevator pitch?
10 words. I'm not going to be able to do 10 words, but we'll maybe 11 or 12. Or 1 sentence. a young woman who needs to learn about her gifts and herself.
I
Put it
like
that way.
it. I like it. That's good. Um, and this is everybody's least favorite question. Who is your favorite character to write, and why was that person your favorite? Because everybody has trouble picking somebody. They're like, it's a tie.
Okay, so
So
in Light in the Shadows, it was definitely Riker. I had a ball writing him. I really did. Um, and I would say in Light Lost, he was also my favorite because that was a different kind of journey. I think for most books, you don't often see men being allowed to show grief, and I really enjoyed that. And there were times where I'm like, am I getting this right? I don't know. I'm like, I'm a woman. I don't know. But I had a couple of guys read it, and they're like, just blown. They were like, this is like, it was devastating. They were like, they couldn't even deal with that. So I felt like that was pretty good. But fun. Okay, so I do like River.
we were talking about River.
Yeah. Yeah, for a lot of reasons. Of course, I know his whole journey.
Right.
And so, yeah, he was in Light in the Shadows, he was just a total asshole.
Yep.
There are reasons.
Yes, we decided
So,
that
and then, I think he paid the price for that in Light Lost. And then, is he going to find himself? That's where he is right now. And then there's Lilith,
Yep.
who is also,
I know who Lilith is, but
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. She is, sometimes when I write her, I think there's something wrong with me. It's
not you.
like,
She's an alter ego. She's somebody else.
She's just terrible. I mean, every once in a while, and then of course, like, it's really fun. So, where I'm at right now with the books, and, going back, and I'm, trying to make sure that all the threads make sense, and I've flagged, I have, my book looks just as tabbed as yours does, but for different reasons, because I have, different things I need to make sure that follow through. And, boy, going back and reading her in Light the Shadow, she was actually normal at one point. And boy, she ain't there anymore. So, she's an interesting character too, because every once in a while there's a glimmer of her thinking she might do the right thing, and then she just,
never mind,
takes a left turn into crazy town.
it's like, I mean, obviously, like, you make these characters, you flesh out these characters, like, all of them obviously mean something to you. Like, they're all there for a reason, right? Even,
right.
Larkin, and,
Oh yeah,
he's there for a reason. I mean,
he's there for a reason. She had a lesson to learn. It was a bad lesson.
I mean,
yeah.
Right? But that's life. That's what
That's
what I kind of like about, like, urban, is that, like, you do have, like, that, like those things that, like, normal people, right, that don't have wings and, things like that, they go through those things too, and that's, like, very humanizing.
Right. Yeah, well, also, that none of these characters are perfect. They all made really terrible mistakes, and God, haven't we all? I mean, oh my God. There's something that Trinity says in book 4 is like, when you're young, you have your parents there to make sure that they're like a safety net, right? They're just like holding you up a little bit and making sure that you don't do anything terribly disastrous. And if you're the good ones, the good parents do. And then when you're an adult, when you're a young adult, boy, you come up with some of the most outrageously stupid things to do when your parents aren't there to help you. And you can come up with some really spectacularly bad things to do when you're a young adult. And I think that's kind of what I've tried to portray in some of my characters, is that, none of us are perfect. But can you learn from your mistakes, or where do your mistakes lead you, kind of thing. And, do you recognize them? Do you embrace them? You learn from them or not? And some of them don't. I think that's one of the things I like to do in my characters too, is to make sure that they're not perfect. They have their issues, they have their problems, and they have their flaws, for sure. but it makes them relatable. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so.
No, I do. I agree. And Linnea is one of the lovely ladies that I talk to your books to all the time. And I was asking her about like quotes and things like that, and she had one from Trinity. I don't remember. I think she shared it with me. I need to look. But I think that each and every one of your characters is just like you said, like they're fleshed out. They're completely like unique people, and I love all of them, even River and even Lilith and and Hope and all those characters that some of me don't really want to like, but it's kind of like you like that anyway. What was the most challenging part of writing this book?
Which one?
The first
All three of them, or the most recent one?
the first one.
Not, actually, so I learned the process of light and shadows. Like, really, how do you construct a book? And, for example, like, there's, in the beginning of the book where they go there for fall. And when I first read that, it was 12,000 words. It ended up being 3,000 words because it was just like everything, like from end to end, everything everyone did, and I'm realizing what do you need to know all of this stuff? They don't need this stuff. Really kind of pulling through and really drives the story forward, but it kind of seems through. Ellen's theme that reads, and that really the idea, and this is what my editor taught me, that every sentence should be delivering some kind of information. And it doesn't have to be information overload. It can be fun. It can be a part of character thing. There shouldn't be, and so I'm very careful about that because my books are so long too. So I just want to make sure that there is something being conveyed by every story. There's you, by the way. They're not very like, and again, they do kind of build character some of the characters, but there are a lot of entertainment. I could cut out the lake scene. I didn't no way I can keep that. I need to figure out how to do that.
Let me see. All right. Are you still there, Georgia?
I can see you fine. You're moving and everything.
Okay. I don't know there it like you're frozen, so I can't see you, but that's okay. We're good. We're gonna keep going.
I'm moving and you're moving on my phone. I don't know.
It's so weird. Maybe it's just me then. Okay. So I know that this is also a really difficult question, but what is your favorite line from the book?
God. Were you the one that just asked me that? So one of the scenes I always go back to in Light and Shadows is their first kiss. And I really do like that. And there's a couple of scenes some things that I've learned that just totally me so yeah, one of those is like you should be the thing. It's like, oh my god, shit. And then you see, I were froze from it. And then I think of Hayden's scene too when she's starting to lost a little bit, like wouldn't trust her friends. I think those are really important lines as well. So like, when she's having that conversation with Dax at the beach, I really like that interchange they had. Most times Dax is on screen like.
And so, for me, there's a lot of
but yeah, I can't really pick up one.
like a a lot of the quotes I do are like funny quotes that I think are, things I think are funny, or like, obviously like beautiful, like romantic. Like my favorite quote, like right now, I think is, um, you want to know how I feel right now? I feel like every time I need somebody, they walk away. And that's like a really sad quote, but like I really like that because it's she's being so vulnerable in that moment, and that's something that I really, really like about that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate this.
But I mean, she has a lot of stuff.
Sorry.
Let me see. So, when people and authors write, obviously they picture their characters in their mind, and a lot of people do something called fan casting. So, if you were to fan cast any characters in your book, I mean, you can do Haven and Riker or anybody you like. Is there any actor in particular you have in mind for those?
So not necessarily kind of help me visually to when I first started writing is really help me visualize them because I'm a very visual person. So if I were to cast, it would be he's a model. Basically, that's who I think of him. When I saw his face, I'm like, oh my god, that's him. He's not an actor, but that's kind of the look. And then, I don't think the look's right, but the attitude is Jennifer Lawrence. I just like her strength and the way she portrays characters. It looks a little different. Haven's hair is darker. But also, I think her physique is. She's got curves. She's got she's not a little skinny thing. With she's that. I think of her. Too.
Awesome. So we're gonna pop into the last section here. And just some general kind of fun questions. If anybody does have questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. And we'll definitely get to those. But Georgia, what do you like to do when you're not writing? I know that you said that you ride horses, but what else do you like to do?
Travel. Love to travel. Paris is one of my favorite things. A great writing stint in there for 11 days. A year ago, May, so and maybe 22. And really a lot. I was the time when I was shadow writing and put it all together and then started filling in. But I loved traveling. I loved, of course, writing is a big thing. I'm competitive, so I do shows. I go about half a dozen shows a year. Really fun. And then I have two grown children. I spend a lot of time with them and as well.
Awesome. Angelin has a question. What trope would you like to write about that you haven't yet? What's a trope that, I don't know, if you were to put in another book or anything like that, what's one of those tropes?
Sorry. Trope or genre? Which
trope.
one is it?
So,
Well, I have to both. Trope. Okay. Yeah. Kind of hit a wall. I hit a lot of them.
You have a lot.
I have. I think that the one thing I haven't done is love comedies. I can do that at some point. I am a romance person, so I do like the eventual happy ever after. So that the lovers to enemies, that's hard. That's really one. Not yet, but I think. And oh, by the way, I would not say that is Little Trooper because I don't ever think they were in love.
Mhm.
I wouldn't call it one,
Girl.
but yeah, that's what I have done yet. So I think that one might be something I do.
And then Kay asked, any plans that you have to break into the pure fantasy genre? So like high fantasy, like that. Girls, come here.
So, because I think it's a little bit, might do have a lot to be involved in that, and there's definitely very long art that's going on. Um, so I think that the romance element is part of life. You know, I think we all love people, and it's sort of being who we are. But I would just ever not correct that. Besides, it's fun. I don't know. You know, I think there'll probably always be part of everything is a romantic element to it because I just think it's part of who we are people. But outside of fantasy, something I probably I actually have very contemporary, and that was my first foray into that. I was like, do it. I'm probably only doing this for 3 years. I liked it. So I do have an idea for. I need to talk about that before we really come down to it. We're very contemporary.
Awesome. Let me try to disconnect and then have you rejoin because I have no idea why it's still frozen for me and it's been frozen. So let me try to disconnect and then you can come back in.
I think so. Yep, no problem.
All right, we're just gonna try that again. Just because I don't know if it's that way for everybody or if it's just for me. I don't know how it's coming through. Elsa, Anna. Okay, let me see. All right, so she's gonna come back in and we're gonna invite her to be a guest again. Here we go. Let's see if that just resets it and fixes it.
Let's turn the camera again. Hold on. Okay.
All right.
Better?
Yes, it's better. So this is my favorite question. What are some books or authors that you would recommend?
So right now I am. Of course, I had like a ton of. Um, hold on a second. I don't know what happened? Oh, there we go.
And the video just went out. It was
I was looking. Oh,
technology.
can you hear me?
So fun when it works.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can't see you.
All right, let me try this again. Okay, there we go. I'm a Stephen King fan. I do like Sarah J. Maas. I like Jennifer Armentrout. Again, this is a romantic fantasy. And Carissa Broadbent. I like the Bargainer series. I just finished that. Loved that. That was terrific. Yeah, some other things on my TBR list. There's the author. Her name is Lizzie Prince, and I keep talking a book. Everyone should go and read the book. It's called Frost and Fury. It is a mix between Hunger Games and Children of Gods. She came out with a second. It's a duology, so just go check this out. It's very well written, super spicy, really fun. So it's a great indie author. I'm always looking for new indie authors to pick up. But those are the ones I'm right now kind of really looking, I'm getting into. So I just read Broadbent for the first time, and I really liked her writing style. So I'm going to try to read a little bit more for her in the coming year. And then get through some of these other ones. Like I have a couple of A Darker Shade of Magic. I'm starting on the second book on that series right now from V. Schwab. And then, just a couple others. I love fantasy. That's what I said.
Awesome. I read Carissa Broadbent's duology, and then another author recommended Daughter of No Worlds, and I was able to get the audiobooks on Hoopla. So I'm starting those, probably not tomorrow, probably Wednesday, because I'm finishing up The Bridge Kingdom. But I love audiobooks because I just listen to audiobooks like while I'm doing busy work at work. So that's really cool and fun.
That was the one I read, was The Daughter of No Worlds. I really liked it.
Yeah,
It was very good.
good. So I'm excited. We like a lot of the same authors, so it's awesome. If you could share some advice for aspiring authors such as myself. I am trying to write a book. It's coming. Right now I'm trying to help somebody edit. So I'm, kind of trying to figure out split myself like not too thin. But editing is helping me learn. So that's good. But if you could give advice to me
Definitely.
or to your younger self, what would you tell them?
Boy, there's so many pitfalls, and there's so much really kind of bad advice out there. And you have to really kind of stick to what your gut tells you is the right thing to do. And you're going to make mistakes. We all did. I've made plenty. But try to go with what your gut tells you is the right thing to do, and just have patience with yourself. It's a long learning process. And don't be afraid to get advice from people. Meaning readers that put your book out there, even if it's not edited perfectly, just to get feedback. You don't have to make every change that every reader wants you to make. But I think advice is a really interesting, there's only a very narrow band of advice that's actually helpful to an author. Like I had one reader tell me after she read Light in the Shadows that I should create this redemption arc for Larkin and have her dump Riker. I'm like, what? That's no, I'm not going to do that. No. All I can say is that you just didn't get it, which is fine. That's totally fine. And my book's not going to be for everyone, but you just didn't get it. So anyway, you move on. So that was one piece of advice I got, which I just completely disregarded. Just really try to stick with what feels right. But also, you need to get your book out there and you need to get some input besides yourself. You can't do this in a vacuum. It really, every book takes a village of people to create it. So don't be afraid to get advice, but also take the advice that feels right, if you know what I mean.
No, totally. Really good advice. I think that's the most nerve-wracking thing though, right? Is saying, okay, here you go. And then you're kind of opening yourself up to, I know to an extent, but
it's terrifying.
Yeah. I think that's the beautiful thing about searching for different types of readers though. When you're putting out for a beta read, what you're asking for, right? When you're ARC reading, you're looking, you're just getting the review on the book. They're not changing anything. Maybe some grammatical stuff, but the book's pretty much, that's what it is. So, those different stages, are important to remember too. So maybe that would help.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just really kind of doing alpha.
Yep.
I did alpha because this time I've never done that before. Yep. My best friend Joy has read every book I've read in every stage, and she's read garbage and she doesn't count. But this alpha is an interesting one because this book can take one of two roads, and so I really needed some advice on what to do with it. But there was a professional advice. I went to my editor and said, just read it. Don't comment on it. Just read it and tell me what you think. And we'll have a conversation about that. So that's the conversation we're going to have tomorrow, which is what do I do with this thing? But that's a really high level, structural issue kind of thing. And then beta is when you kind of have it written and then you need some advice on story flow, basically. Yep. And then arc is here's my book. What do you think? That's what arcs are really for. And I've had people say, in comments as some videos are what if you you're doing an arc read and you have some input for the author. I'm like, why? That's not what they're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in your review. If you really feel like it went a wrong way, put that in your review. That's what they're asking you to comment on the story they've presented. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So it's the ship has sailed at that point.
Yeah, right. Like it's
so anyway,
that's something good too.
But yeah, it's yeah.
So you said that you do listen to music while you write, which is interesting because a lot of people don't really I've heard like instrumental stuff. I've heard that, but I haven't heard anything with words. So tell me about some of this metal music you're listening to while you're writing.
My favorite right now is Shinedown. So I have that going. I have Shinedown radio going pretty much all the time. 10 Years is on there. Pop Evil. The classics, Metallica, a bunch of other ones. Yeah.
My husband's first dance song.
Yeah, it's pretty loud and
the Simple Man by Shinedown. It was the Shinedown version, not the Leonard Skinner version. So he likes Shinedown. Okay.
Yeah, and right now, especially writing the book I just wrote, River's theme song right now is Monsters from Shinedown. So that's his theme song.
Because so I can listen to it worn down. Perfect. Okay. And do you have a playlist for Light in the Shadows, like inspired by the book or anything like that?
I don't. I had one, Flight Lost. I put that out on a video. Boy, it was probably about 6 months ago. I don't really do playlists because it's all kind of the same for me. I mean, I have favorite songs and I have songs for different chapters sometimes. But I don't, it's more, the music is the same for each book. It just kind of helps me get moody, basically what it does. And that helps, gets through some of these hard chapters that are hard to write, put it that way.
Awesome. And so you said that you really like to travel. So anywhere in particular that kind of like inspired your books or that you would want to travel, that you haven't been yet?
Yeah, I haven't been to Spain. Well, I take it back. I've been to Barcelona, but really more like the Portugal area, the kind of the southwestern mountains. I kind of think of Faro being that way, being like in the Spain, Portugal area. That's kind of the vibe I get from that. So I haven't spent a lot of time there. I'd love to go to Madrid. I'd love to go to Portugal. It's one area I haven't got to yet. I've spent a lot of time in Italy, Germany, France, UK, but I haven't gone down. We went to Austria a couple of times. I do want to spend more time in Germany. I'd love to I have to travel for work. So I've been to like Switzerland. I've been to Copenhagen. I was in Copenhagen for 14 hours. I'm not entirely sure that actually qualifies, but it almost feels like a fever dream when I was there. So I think the Nordic states, I'd love to spend a little bit more time up there. And I haven't been to Ireland, so I'd love to go there too.
Awesome. I love to travel too. Like I've been to Copenhagen. Copenhagen was actually super cool. I really, really liked it. So I hope you get to go there for more than just 14 hours, a little layover. 14 hours. So the last question, that I just added actually, was, do you have any upcoming events or signings?
I don't. I've never done one. That takes a level of courage I don't have yet.
Yeah.
I've looked at some events, and I'm kind of a shy person, so I haven't really put myself there for events or signings yet. So it's something I'm thinking about, but maybe this year, maybe next. I don't know. But again, it's I know a lot of authors really love to do this. It terrifies me. So I haven't done it yet.
No, I totally get that. I think, even just like kind of trying to organize it, even like, they have ones that, look for authors and things like that. But then, you have ones that you try to organize. So that's definitely a little bit, anxiety provoking. And I really am glad that you were agreeable.
I know.
Interview. even though it's not, necessarily like your favorite thing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think if it were the right event that had like that kind of was for romantic fantasy books, I
Yeah.
might do that. Because I think that that's full. It's a very concentrated audience, and you already kind of know it's like I don't know, like shooting fish in a barrel. The audience is there; it's the right audience. But if you're going to go down to the local Barnes and Noble and just set up a table, I don't know. I don't know if that would really fly. That to me just might be a little bit too much for me. So
Well, thank you, Georgia, so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really, really appreciate your time. I can't wait for everybody to read Shadow Rising, just like I got to read it. And I mean, there's so much more coming from Georgia. I know that you'll just keep writing and keep writing amazing books that have so much, like, I have a lot of world building tabs, like a lot of those that like I was like, yeah, like there actually aren't that many sad tabs, which I'm really proud of myself. That I didn't have to put that many sad, because sad is like my least favorite to tab, because like I don't want to remember that it happened. But thank you so much again. And I'm sure that we will chat
welcome.
again soon.
Thanks for setting this up too. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Have a wonderful
Yeah,
rest.
thank you for setting it up. It was a lot of fun.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.